Welcome to the Future of Operations. This is our first time doing the Future of Operations. Basically, if you've seen our other stuff, we've done Future of Marketing. Operations is a bit different because, effectively businesses, as we get more and more technology, they're getting more and more systematized and more things fall to operations. And I think it's just going to be an even bigger and bigger subject. So this is our first one, and we'll be doing one of these each month. So quick intro on me. I'm Alec Kauffman. I'm the founder of Annovation. Annovation does tech and strategy for small businesses. Annovation is all about understanding technology today to help you achieve a better future tomorrow. And then I'll hand it over to Charlie to intro yourself.
Hey, everybody. So I'm Charlie. I'm the founder of Break Free Technology Consulting. We do customized strategy plans, technology consulting, specifically with a target towards nonprofit and benefit businesses. And super excited to be here with Alec. Can't wait to get into this with y'all.
Perfect. All right. So the agenda for today, the future of operations basically imagines a business built today and the systems it would need to run it effectively. And then we discuss how those systems may change in the future. And like I said earlier, effectively, if you're looking at the technology that's in a business, look back a decade, and the technology is just becoming more and more important to the success of a business. So the systems that you use to run your business are really essential to the success of your business. So what we're trying to do here is help you understand the systems that are available to you. We're going to think through systems as if a business were built today, and then you can think back to your business, how you've built those systems. Maybe you're just starting out, maybe you're trying to build a system, and this should help give you an idea of how to build those systems into your business, especially modern systems. You might have built the system a decade ago, 2 decades ago, maybe even, I have met a 50-year-old business, so, maybe it's even 5 decades ago. So, but updating these systems over time and thinking about how they evolve is really important. Because they're probably not staying the same. Well, they can't really stay the same because the technology is not staying the same. So today we're talking about client communication systems, and this is also connected with the Annovation community. So if you haven't heard of what the Annovation community is, it's all about talking about the future, trying to understand what this crazy future looks like, piece it together, and make sense of it. So if you're not part of it, you can scan that QR code, join us there. We'll continue the discussion there, and all of these events are tied to that. All right, now we're going to get into it. Communication systems. So we're going to imagine you just started a business in 2025. What are the communication systems that you would use to build and why? And these are client communication systems. So this is how someone learns about you, how a client learns that, oh, this person exists and I could probably use their stuff. Well, I guess not just necessarily that, but how you interact with them. So think email, phone, website, how you really engage with them.
Yeah, so I think we're seeing more businesses that start off having a social media presence. That really is where they start. It's easy. We've already got it there. We spin up an account for the business. It has become, I think, a really approachable way to get some sort of an interface with some sort of a communication system in place. The cool thing about it is it works. And for a lot of businesses, it works and continues to be one of their primary ways of reaching out to their clients and to their target. I think that kind of depends on the business, though. For some, I think that's more successful than others. And I think a lot of that is just the target of what industry you're in. So, for example, clients maybe aren't going on Facebook and Googling tech strategist or, a systems strategist. And so that's where we get into some of the more complications of, okay, once I figured out where my clients are or where the communities are that I'm trying to reach out to, what is most effective for that group of people?
Yeah, that's a super good point about the social media because the thing is, like in 2025, you could definitely. I always call social media like your digital storefronts. So if you think of it as like you could start a little pop-up digital storefront right there for free on Instagram or something like that. And then that could be one of your initial points of communication. And then from there, you can build that out further. So you can then start to have a business phone line. Obviously, you want to be careful about using your personal phone number and things like that because if you're giving that out all over the internet and you're giving that out all over in other places, that can cause some problems in your life. So
But yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. So we've established some sort of a social media presence, right? We've created a profile. We know that we have some sort of communication capability there. People can typically chat. You can usually, especially on Facebook, you can chat just with that Facebook interface, so they aren't coming into your personal account. I think something that I'm seeing a lot of businesses do is when they get to that next step, which is I don't want to give out my personal cell phone. My choices are either a landline or a business cell phone, right? And I think it's really important to introduce the idea of having a VoIP phone system. And I think that it's probably come a long ways from in just the past few short years.
and can you
Um,
explain VoIP?
so VoIP is voice over IP, wonderful acronym that technology loves to use for this just means I'm using the internet to talk on a phone system. It functions the same way as a phone number. One of probably the most approachable versions of that is Google Voice. If you have a cell phone number, you can sign up for a free Google Voice account that is associated with your cell phone that can contact your cell phone but isn't your own personal number. So that I think is a really simple place to start for individual entrepreneurs, especially who are wanting to put some sort of a phone number out there. We want to put it on social media. We want it on, maybe print media. We don't want it to be somebody's individual phone number, especially if it's tied to an individual cell phone account.
And same thing with if you're on the Microsoft side, you can use a number inside of Teams too.
Yeah, so that's definitely something to look at. Potentially, you might have the ability to set up a phone number through the internet with technology that you're already using. And
Hmm.
especially for a lot of us that are just starting out a brand new business, the budget's kind of tight. Cell phone plans can be pretty pricey, but if you can connect it with technology that you already have, that makes it a lot easier for you.
Well, I think a lot of the social media sites, so let's say you are kind of putting your social media presence as one of your main systems. You already have the chat function, then you can add sometimes a phone number as a contact. And that can be a good way to give yourself another way that's not just coordinating just through social media for clients.
Yeah. And from there, you can always build on the social media presence that you create to do things like add a link to your website once you get that spun up. It's very easy to redirect then. Say you've been doing this for a little bit, you're starting to realize that maybe you do have clients who are looking for a website, not necessarily looking on social media. It's super easy to take that presence that you already have and just start redirecting traffic to the new site that you're building up.
Well, one thing that I want to touch on with phone systems before we move away from that is some of the stuff with AI automated calling and stuff like that. I know this is like a level up from the system. So if you just start your phone system, right? There are some new tools that you can start to look at. So let's say you set up your phone system and um, then you set up a voicemail because you want to catch people even when you're not available to answer the phone. Maybe you set up something like ring orders too, where it calls you, then you have another person who's working with you, maybe it rings to them. And then if they don't pick up, then it rings to another person. So you could do that. But then there's also things like phone tree type things. You press a button, it goes to a certain person. There's also now AI call pickup, which is interesting because rings through the phone tree, or let's say it's off your business hours, that system could now pick up the phone and answer based off of something that you give it for instructions.
And I think that's really fascinating because I think it has put into people's hands. And I know we said it is a level up, but it's not as big of a level. It's not as big of a step as people might think. There are absolutely tools out there. We'll get into that a little bit that make that really approachable. And so I do like one of the things I do like about AI is that it's more just asking the questions. What do I want this to do? And putting that capability back into people's hands. And so it's most of these systems, especially the smaller systems that are really looking for that small business, they kind of walk you through the setup. So they'll help you explain how to program it, how to set up that tree so that it works the way you want it to, or setting up your business hours. So you just don't have to be a huge business to have a phone tree and to have office hours and all of these really cool features that make life easier. You know, maybe you don't want to be getting phone calls on your cell phone at 8 o'clock at night, but you really want that request to get captured somewhere. And more, there are more tools for these smaller organizations that are making that approachable. So you're not missing that client pickup. They're still communicating with you in some way.
Well, and like for me, for example, I'm a one person business. So what I want to do is eventually, like the price that I have right now is $50 a month, right? And I can have an AI voice assistant that will pick up the calls. And what I'll probably use that for first is those off hour calls.
Mhm.
So before that would fall to my voicemail, and I would have to rely on them leaving a detailed voicemail, which sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It depends. But once I have this AI system in place, you know, all hours of the day, someone can basically be on the phone. If I can't get to it, I have someone who's going to get to it. And that right there is a level up in a system that allows one person to do so much more than they could before.
And this is getting to the sales side a little bit, but there really is. I mean, think about if you're looking for a landscaper and you've got a kind of a window, you'd really like to get somebody in before a backyard event that you're having or something. Very often there's a little bit of a time limit. So if I pick up the phone and I reach out to somebody and I do get their voicemail, there is a really good chance that I'm just gonna hang up and go to the next name that's on my list because I want to talk to somebody because I want to be able to express to them and get some synchronous communication back and forth about, hey, here's what's happening. Here's when I would like to get this done. And yeah, we're just seeing this incredible flexibility that isn't the leave your name and number at the beep interaction anymore that we've had with phone systems in the past.
And I mean, I think that that connects really nicely into another system, which is kind of the asynchronous booking of appointments. So using something like Calendly or Microsoft Booking or Google has a version of Booking now. And so using those tools so that people can book with you on demand. So they don't have to be, sending you the back and forth dialogue of are you available this time? I'm available this time. They can just see when you're available and actually make that time. And that's something that really so many small business owners could be using, but I think they just don't know that's much of an option. So if you don't know that's an option, you're not really going to be able to use it. And that's really one of the core theses here is we want to help you understand what tools are available to you so that you can think, oh, yeah, I actually could use this here. And this is something that would help me over here so that you can actually recognize when to use these tools. Because if you don't know how to use a hammer, you're not going to know when to use a hammer. That's really what we're trying to do here.
Right. Yeah, that's such a great roll into booking. So especially again, one person shop, small business, we know that you're doing a million different things, most of which you're not the expert at, and is not even why you got into your business. You're an expert at typically one specific market thing. And having this opportunity and Alec, like you said, uh, my gosh, there's so many different options out there and they are affordable. Many of them have a a minimalized version, but they'll have a free version. And then the paid version is a few dollars a month. And the ability to go in and program, you know, do I send you automatically as a Zoom or a Google Meet or a Teams link after this has been set up? So you as a client come in, you pick the time with me, my system sends you the link that we're going to meet at the same time that it's sending you the invite from my inbox.
Mhm.
All
And you
I'm
didn't have
doing
to
is
do a
making,
thing.
right, all I'm doing is making sure that you have the link. And that link can stay static. That link doesn't change. You can still have unique meeting invites. This is all your major systems for scheduling will do this where the link for the invite can be unique. The meeting itself, so you're not having that awkwardness where one meeting ends up and then you have a client join while you're still in the previous meeting and now you have two clients in the same meeting. But the link for your booking page stays static. So you can put that on social media. You can put that in your email signature. You can text it to somebody, shoot it in a message in LinkedIn. Removing kind of these barriers for clients and customers and trusted partners to make it easier to work with you really encourages people to reach out and say, well, I'm kind of just curious, but I want to learn more about what you do.
Yeah, and I think one of the pieces there that you touched on, which was like the different meeting links and things like that, you can also put different locations. And
Mhm,
so I think about all the times that when I was just starting out, I would be emailing back and forth with someone, and it's like, what's your availability? Are you available this time, or this time? And I'm like, okay, I'm available this time, this, and I'm listing all the times that I'm available on my calendar. And then I'm sending that to that person, and then they're sending an email back and saying, well, where do you want to meet? Maybe we meet for coffee here, or maybe we meet over here, or this or that, or the other thing. And really, what you can do with these systems is you can say, here's my availability. I'll often send it to other people. I'll say, here's my availability, give them my Calendly link, and it's just like, this is when I'm available.
mhm.
And so that's a useful application where you're not trying to go back and forth on the times you're available. Then in in the process of them actually booking the meeting, they can go in and you can have questions for them while they're booking the meeting. So you could actually get a little bit of information ahead of the meeting. You can have automated reminder sequences, so it basically follows up with them. You can have scheduling things, so it's basically if they need to reschedule, if they need to cancel, they can let you know pretty easily. And then for the meeting location, you can have multiple different locations that they can choose from. And you can say, these are the locations I picked from that are available. Choose whichever one works best for you.
Mhm.
So that type of thing, like the just getting the software right, is one level of that. And that you can already see a huge benefit just by using that type of software, that type of system that's going to allow people to book and it saves you some time.
Right.
Then there's a level up of that system, which is when you pair it with something like a Zapier or some type of automation with Make or something like that, that allows you to actually connect it with your other apps that you use to run your business, your other software that you use to run the business.
Yeah. And have you spoken to Make or Zapier in other sessions before?
I'll talk about them a little bit, but typically I won't touch specific tools. Those are probably the two most well-known tools, and that's often what I'll touch on in these meetings.
Well, but I think it's important to point out that, it's really rare, maybe impossible to find. If you do find it, please let me know by all means. It's really rare to find a system that does everything you want it to do. You're going to find tools that do certain things really well. The good news is everybody knows this. Um, and developers have recognized that. And so there are additional tools out there to get your your three favorite tools to talk to each other. I really like this. I love the scheduling. I love that this one shows a map. Just because a couple of tools that you really like don't have integrated communication with each other, that doesn't mean that that isn't an option. There are absolutely specific programs out there, applications out there that their whole existence is getting those two applications to talk to each other really seamlessly. And when you're going in and setting it up, you're not coding, it's pulling examples, it's showing you this is what this looks like when it works smoothly. Is this what you're looking for? So, kind of the entry to set it up. I mean, yeah, you can absolutely go down rabbit holes with this, but really the entry to set it up, it's very user friendly and it's very quick, you know, 5 to 10 minutes to have a great integration working that makes your life so much easier.
And I think that's what's hard to understand sometimes is it seems like these are going to be really complex tools that cost a lot and basically um, take a lot of technical skill to understand. They are actually pretty intuitive. It's kind of a flow of if this happens, then do this. Once you've done that, do this. And then based off of this input, you could make a little split. It says do this or do this. You're just kind of going through the flow model of once you have a trigger, what do you want it to do? So once something happens, so let's say someone schedules a Calendly appointment with you, someone books a meeting with you, right? What do you want it to have happen? Maybe it sends them an email, or maybe it sends them something else. Maybe it adds their contact to a spreadsheet and just says this person, this is the person who, these are all the people who have scheduled, and you have a scheduling spreadsheet. I mean, there's a number of different things. You have to figure out what integration you actually want, but there's tons of them where like it can integrate with HubSpot. It logs your person's information there. It can add it to your contacts. The options are kind of endless. Like if you just go look at Zapier or any of these other ones, you'll see the amount of connections that can be done. And that's what these things are all set up to do. It's basically connect this app with this app because not all of our apps talk to each other. Most of our apps don't talk to each other by default.
You touched on something that was really cool because it circles back to your comment about if you don't know how to use a hammer, you won't know when to use a hammer. And I think something that I really like about these major synchronization tools or these automation tools that we're talking about is the value in, if you're not sure, I don't know, it sounds really cool, but I don't know necessarily how I would use it, if I would use it. Go check out the site. These sites will always have a link that says, here are the tools that we integrate with. Spend 5 minutes just scrolling through because part of that is it gets you a little bit ahead of the when to use the hammer. You get to kind of see, oh, this tool that I use is here. I wonder what else it would work with. I'm already familiar with one of these tools. What else is out there? So even just spending a couple of minutes just being curious about it and poking around. And small business is the target market. So like you spoke to, Alec, it's really approachable and it's really affordable because it's the assumption that we don't have an application developer necessarily at our fingertips. We definitely don't have one working for us unless we are application developers. And so the assumption is that we need some way to automate these two systems in a way that we can't have custom built for us.
One of the big things with that, so I think it's important to say when we say integration, we just mean connecting a tool with another tool. Integration kind of sounds like a scary word,
Yeah.
but it's just connecting this to this. And really, as long as you know, like, I've had people who really didn't know that they could do these things. Like, they genuinely just didn't know that was possible. And when you look at these integrations, sometimes they can save you hours. There's systems where some people will type all the things in manually into a spreadsheet.
Mhm.
Happens all the time. I'm sure there's a business owner listening right now that's like, I know that system that I do entirely manually. And there are some systems that you just have to do that way. But there are some other systems that you don't have to do that way. You can actually get the data export, or you can get that data connection made so that it doesn't have to be manual entry. And that is really incredible. One other piece that I want to add here is while you're doing this, while this software is incredibly cool and you can do all these great systems, we have to touch on the with great power comes great responsibility, which is these tools being incredible connectors are also really ones that you want to make sure you're careful with, meaning you want a trusted tool. You don't want something that you're putting all this trust in and you're connecting it up to all your different apps and things like that. And then it's like the password is like 1, 2, 3, 4. So, you know, make sure you have a tool that you trust. So that's one of the reasons I talk about Zapier and Make, because those are the two that I can trust. Um, I don't really even use Make. So, you know, if someone is more inclined on that one, then yeah, but they're probably fine. But I just know Zapier's been around longer. It's more trusted as far as I know. But beyond those two, there are other tools that do these types of things. I'm very skeptical because the thing is just how much trust you have to put in these systems.
Yeah, it's important to understand too that the reason the tool functions as effectively as you logging in is because it's you logging in. And it's pretty common, and this is really a good way to do things where you might have your individual email that you directly communicate with clients, you're booking that email. You might have a utility account that you just use to connect to things like this. That's fine. If you are doing that, just make sure that that's account you're logging into on a regular basis. You're just looking at it. You're checking to make sure that no activity that isn't expected is happening. And then, yeah, the really the key piece of this is making sure that you're connecting with a tool that you can trust, because there's a lot of access and a lot of ability to connect to things that you don't want someone connecting to if you're using this less trusted or untrusted automation tools. And if you have questions about it, I mean, come to the community, talk about it, ask people questions. Hey, I saw this thing. I want to know if it's reliable. We've got people hanging out that love to talk about what tools are out there to make our lives easier. And just it's our own personal experience, like Alex spoke to, but we've got some experience. I'm happy to chat with you about it.
That's what's so cool about this system is it's like we have a support network. And it's like a lot of small businesses I feel like end up with one tech person, and that is like their go-to person, and maybe they have one tech person who's like actually a tech person. Maybe they just have like one person who like kind of stays up to date and they kind of know some stuff, but they really don't have any actual like IT background or anything like that. And you know, you use what you have, but what we want to do with this community is give you a little bit more so that you have more things to use, more
Yeah.
resources to use so that you can get good tech advice, good tool advice, and actually understand like how do you update your business and keep your business up to date for what this future holds that's just all this tech enabled craziness. Um, Craziness in a good way and a bad way because there's there's some good and some bad. The incredible thing is the amount of power that these tools unlock allow you a lot more scalability in your business than a lot of people are giving it credit right now. And with that scalability means your ability to deliver for customers can go up, which means your revenue can go up. And if you have competitors that are not doing that, you'll probably be able to outcompete them. On the flip side of that, if your competitors are using tools that you are not, they could also do the same thing. So that's why this is such an interesting thing to understand is that the tools that you use to run your business can really be the tools that make or break a business.
Yeah, it's There really is leverage there, Alec. Like you pointed out, booking, even just setting up a booking link is so incredibly approachable, but there really are very few small businesses out there taking advantage of that. And even just having a booking link on that, let's go back to social media. Have a link that goes to a booking page. You're not even engaging with your customers, and here you see, oh, I have a meeting on my calendar for a customer I haven't even talked to who was just breezing by, saw that there was a booking link there, filled it out because you've got it set up to ask for those prompts to gather a little more information. And here you've got a contact that you have information on that's happy to talk to you. It really is a huge opportunity to multiply your hands-on skill. Have these tools doing business for you at all hours.
Well, and I think there's a lot of pieces here too, where we talked about the social media site, right? But you could have that set up on social media. You could have that set up on your website.
Yeah.
You could even have a booking link on your business card. So you pass a business card to someone, you don't even have to do that email follow-up sequence of, oh, do you want to schedule it this time or what not? They might just be able to book on the spot. And then there you go. You've already got the meeting set. You didn't have to do anything else other than have the conversation pass the business card. Same thing with, you could have it linked in your email signature, things like that. All these different ways where you can bring someone into like to your business and alleviate that friction of the emails back and forth and things like that. Because what happens when you're playing this telephone game of email where it's they call you or you email them, they email you back, then you email them, and maybe they don't email you back for a couple days. If that doesn't happen, sometimes people drop the ball. So thinking of ways to alleviate those potential lost systems.
You mentioned putting it on your business card. I saw one that I really liked the other day where you can print these skinny flexible magnets. A lot of people will print quite a large sized one and they'll put it on their vehicle, and now all of a sudden it becomes a company vehicle. Well, they're like, if I'm going to print it anyway, I'm going to put a QR code on there. So now everybody has not to generalize too much, but almost everybody has a smartphone in their pocket. And they had it set up so that you could see the name of the company. They had their quick little super, super short pitch of what they do. And then you could take out your phone, scan that QR code, and it went directly into their booking page. So now they're a driving billboard advertising their.
Well, and I think in addition to that, think about where this goes further when you have these AI systems that are integrated in looking at the different things, the different contacts, the different emails that have come in, the different phone calls that have come in. And if it has all those different databases and it's seeing the traffic flow through, it might also be able to help you in that organization of that chaos, basically saying, "Hey, did you follow up with this person?" And sometimes you'll see this on Google already. It has a nudge feature
Mhm.
where it says, "Did you follow up with this person that you sent this email to?" Or this person called you back, you might want to call them. And right now, that's the version today. But think about a little bit further out, the version a year, two, three from now, when these systems get better and more integrated, where they actually start coming in and saying, I'm actually managing this sheet for you, so I can kind of track who has contacted you, who are you missing, who have you not followed up with, things like that. And some people might say that's weird or might say that's never going to happen, but I think it's very likely that we have these AI tools integrated at a deep level. I mean, Google with Gemini is already right there in your email inbox. How how far away are we from the point where Gemini is you give it these specific roles and things that you want it to do for you, and then it's just doing them on a regular basis.
Yeah, I think it's we're not terribly far away, and I think this may even be a thing that exists where somebody reaches out to you and they've filled out a contact form or they've booked. So many of us, our identification online is associated with that email account that we use to book that meeting. And so having a system set up where when that person comes through your inbox and they book that meeting or they filled out a contact form, that AI system knows to go find that email, go find the domain, document some information about that and bring all of that into your inbox and say, hey, you had somebody who reached out. They booked a meeting with you. I found them on LinkedIn. They're the CFO of this organization. Now, this organization was started 25 years ago and basically provide this breakdown of, here's the organization's culture from what I can glean online. Here's the way that I've noticed they tend to communicate or where they're most active in communicating, how I think they might like to be communicated with based on their LinkedIn post or based on other public facing information. And we're starting to see this interesting ability of AI to recognize communication patterns and potentially even give us feedback on how that person might respond best to a certain type of communication, which has really been fascinating for me to see. And I'll do that where I'll run through an email. Hey, what do you think about how I've presented my response based on this email that I received? And it's been really fascinating to see because we're humans, but we do have patterns still, and we're starting, I think, to pick up and recognize those patterns.
Mhm. Well, it's just like HubSpot actually. It had this little button that showed up. It said, prepare for your meeting. And I could click that and it would give me some info on one, what I had dialogued back and forth with the client about. And then it actually did do an interesting thing where it tried to summarize their tech stack too. So it tried to give me a rough guess of at what their tech stack was. I worked with them, so I knew what their tech stack was already.
Mhm.
Um, but it was interesting because I looked at it. Oh, and for those of you not in the tech world, tech stack, just the tools you use. So it took a look at that and it guessed. But I mean, as it gets better, that's pretty interesting. Where it might actually get to the point where it's more accurate than that, and it's even more useful at kind of summarizing. This might be the way to pitch this person, or hey, I've created a kind of a personalized email for that person based off of your prior conversations and knowledge. This is what I think would work best for this person, given
Nice.
their background, their interests, their company, all that. So it gives you kind of a more tailored it could give a more tailored, almost personal approach, and people get confused when they say AI could make it more personal, but it really could because it actually gives you the ability to go into that depth layer and do that at scale, which you could not do before.
Right. Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that because I was just thinking about it where, this can sound really scary. It can sound really Skynetty. It's, boy, I don't like the idea of AI finding this information and everything, but what it can allow you to do is be a better communicator and to maybe pause. You're coming in as the expert, and so you're coming in with some hindsight. And so maybe sometimes it helps pause assumptions that are made and think about what is this person's perspective? What has their experience been? What are their potential challenges? How do we think they might have approached things historically? And I think there is value there. And yeah, helping you form more personalized communication, helping you slow down and in a weird way that is it's getting you to useful information faster, but it's slowing down the jump to conclusions part of our brain and saying, well, let me not go in with just what I know and just my picture, let me go in with a little bit of potential insight into what my customers' challenges are, what problems they're trying to solve might be. And so I think there's room for better quality communication. I think there's room for greater compassion. Technology is not good or evil, it's the tool. And that's the same with AI. It is a tool. It is not going to make you an uncompassionate person. It's not going to change the core of who you are. Humanity is still humanity. But I think there's value in spaces like the innovation community to speak to how can this make us better humans, better at work, make our day easier so that we can spend time with people we love. It has such a really incredible power. It's how we use it.
Mhm. It's incredibly powerful. It's incredibly useful. It's also undefeated, and it does not care what you think of it. So it's like a lot of people will make very bad decisions about tech because their opinion of it. It's like I'm not going to use AI because it's some people say just like all kinds of things. But like let's go back a little bit. People would actually avoid using electricity because they thought it had demons in it. That is just part of the game of technology where some people will have a bad take on technology and they will spread that news around. And who it hurts most are the people who never use it and think that they don't need to understand this thing. They shouldn't learn about it and they should just it's just a fad, it's going to go away. And when you take that approach, that's probably where you're going to get burned. And I think the biggest challenge is there is a difference between learning and adoption. If you are skeptical about a technology, that is perfectly fine to be skeptical. It doesn't mean you can't learn about it. And I think you can learn about something at any point. You can adopt it whenever you want. And no matter where you fall in the innovation adoption curve, which is there's the innovators, the early majority, the late majority, the laggards, no matter where you fall in that curve, right? That's the adoption curve. That's not the learning curve. So you can learn about it at any point, you can adopt it at any point. And the timing of your adoption is going to get way, way better if you know more about it.
Yeah. And I think there's value in we spoke a while back about the danger of using a tool that doesn't have a good reputation. There's
Mm-hmm.
so much value in learning about something, even if you're pretty sure you're not ready to adopt it, but understanding it enough that you can kind of start to see those little red flags of, oh, this is what a reliable tool looks like. This is what a reliable technology looks like. This is what a dangerous technology looks like. And I'm using dangerous in the sense of somebody is behind that technology and using it for not good purposes. So even just the familiarity of let me get in, be curious, let me get in, let me read about it. I love Alec that you say that there is a difference between adoption and learning. And learning can happen at any pace. There's no danger in learning. There's no danger in reading more about the new technology that's coming out. And yeah, it's going to keep coming out, but there are really great things that technology has done to make us better humans. If you're running a business, you're launching a business, seeing that succeed, technology is going to be huge in that success. And it's the tool. It's the tool that you make it.
An hour back is an hour back. You get to use that on whatever you want. I
Right.
mean, you could use that for more time in your business, but you could also use that for time with family. You could use that for any number of things. And that's part of the sad thing with technology too, is the people who don't use technology and you look at like they end up getting really, really busy, but they might not have to be busy. That's what always gets me is when and that's kind of what gives me this fuel for this is the the people who are really, really busy and they're not very tech savvy, and if they did use technology, they could be not busy. They could spend that
Mhm.
extra time to go on a vacation, spend time with family, do all any other thing that they would want to do with their life. But they don't know that they could be that much more efficient. They don't know that they could get that time back and use it some other way.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's value sometimes in just stepping back. And I think learning about a technology is uses a different part of your brain than running the business, learning about something new versus doing a thing that you do on a regular basis. And I think there's so much value in taking that time to learn because part of it also steps away from the day to day of the business and makes you think. It gets that curiosity back where you don't get in the this is how I do payroll, and I do payroll like this every month, the same time every time. And let you kind of explore this. What if there's a new way to do it? What if it could be done differently? And get in that mindset of let me just let me just learn. Let me just learn about what's out there. Could payroll not be the pain that it is now because now I found out that there's a tool that lets me do it in, 30 minutes instead of 2 hours or whatever.
Well, in addition to that, software is getting easier to make too. Like if you look at the your ability to use these tools to spin up custom solutions, those custom solutions are getting a lot easier. Whether that be something as simple as like a Zapier workflow, or whether that be as detailed as trying to spin up an app, the fact that you can use AI to start to build those custom tools makes those custom tools easier and easier to make. So I think that's another vector to think about. That's another aspect of this to think about is it's getting easier to create these tailored tools so that you could have something that does exactly what you need it to do. There's also these workflows coming in. So you've got, we didn't touch on these other two. There's Zapier, we talked about, Make, we talked about. There's also Microsoft Power Automate. So if you have things in the Microsoft ecosystem, you can use that. Or if you're on a Windows machine. Then there's also Google Workspace is adding some workflows to their stuff as well. So I think these workflows are something to pay attention to and something to learn. If those are completely an unknown foreign concept to you, definitely spend a little bit of time understanding those because we're really getting to this point where you could start to see a lot more of these systems being built on the backs of software solutions, custom software solutions, and workflows.
Yeah. And I think it's really cool if you're not entirely sure where to start, you can go to a tool like Zapier and just type in what you want it to do. It's very plain language, and you don't have to connect to any tool yet to see the way that it goes through the process of, hey, it sounds like you are wanting to connect a Microsoft tool to a Google tool using this. Here's kind of what this would look like. So it's very easy to just start to play with it, start to practice, start to see what the response looks like without actually connecting any real tools because again, you're in that learning phase. There's a lot that you can do to kind of learn how to tell AI what you want it to do and what the response will look like.
Yeah, and I mean, I think if we're going to look further out, right, we have maybe there's an email that's manned by AI, the same way I was talking about my voicemail being manned by an AI call agent. So if I don't get to an email, it gets to that email. If I don't get to the phone in time, it gets to that phone call. I think that's a good understanding of kind of like a backstop that you might have as a system. Same with social media DMs, direct message. Same with like your website chatbot, where there's probably going to be disclosures around all of these things. You want to make sure that people understand that if they're interacting with the chatbot, it might say some things wrong. But as long as you're explaining that it might say some things wrong and you know, that it's there as an informational resource for you, I think it's going to be a huge help to a lot of small businesses.
Yeah, it we we do hear a lot about how, oh, this AI agent was so incredibly wrong on this key piece. It really is important to recognize that that's what hits the media.
Hmm.
Your day to day, and I do this all the time with, throwing out a platform that I use. I interact with ChatGPT relatively frequently. And anytime that I say, how do I do this? And it'll say something, I'll say, great. Can you link what you're pulling that from? And so recognizing that, yes, there might be, again, full disclosure on, hey, we're using an AI agent. It's to get you that 80-90% of the information that you need. There might be 5 or 10% that just is outdated or it
Hmm.
isn't completely accurate. But we really don't hear, it doesn't make it to the news every time I ask ChatGPT what time the film is playing, or hey, I need instructions for how to set this up, because it worked and it wasn't egregiously wrong. And so again, it really does come back to communication. It comes back to transparency and communication about what you're communicating with.
And I think AI, especially right now, is a lot of AI on the internal side is super useful. Just using it to speed up that internal communication and things like that. And maybe that's one of the things that we'll touch on in a future topic. But I think it's super effective for doing a lot of that stuff and just learning how to use that productivity boost internally. It doesn't have to be client facing at first.
Yeah,
And then as this gets better, and you get more comfortable with it and feels like, I can rely on, 80 to 90% pretty good. If it's hitting 95, something like that, humans make mistakes too. So as these get better and better and better, you know, when does it reach that threshold where it's, that error rate is pretty negligible? And
mhm,
maybe it does mess up every once in a while, and that's why we keep saying, you can't trust everything the AI model says. But it's one of those things where it will probably get good enough to the point where it just makes a lot of sense.
yeah. I think there's incredible value. Play with it, have fun with it. Technology is meant to have fun. Figure out how to get comfortable. Alec, like you said, trying it out internally, great way to test it before you would do that anyway. You would do evaluation of a product or you would test a service before you would roll it out to your customer base. Do the same thing with your tools that you use.
Definitely. And I feel very comfortable with like businesses just at least experiment with it. If you're not
Mhm.
experimenting with it, like it's going to be around. It's not going away. So when something gets to the point where we know it's going to be around, we know it's not going away, that is the perfect time where okay, if I'm going to have to learn it someday, I might as well start now when it's easier to understand because it's going to get more and more complex. There's going to be some, like, the internet was easier to understand back when it was just a smaller version. And now it's incredibly hard to understand how the internet works in its bigger version. So when you can learn them at their early stages, it helps you understand them in their bigger stages. All right. We're pretty much at time. Shall we wrap?
Yeah, let's wrap up.
All righty. Well, thank you for coming to the first Future of Operations. There will be a second Future of Operations and many more. The next one, we're planning to do these on a monthly cadence. So next one will probably be in June sometime. Look for that on the calendar. And then send us your questions, your feedback, your thoughts on today's topic. And then let us know if you're interested in being a guest. We want to bring people on who are building these systems, working through them, chat with them about what is going on and what they're finding useful. And then you can always continue the conversation in the Annovation community. And there's my phone number and email, and those are not tied to any specific specifically automated business systems. But if you call that number or you send me an email, I will get back to you. They're not tied to those yet. We'll see. Maybe further down the line, I'll be like, and now this one's tied to an AI bot, and now this one responds to you
There you go.
instantaneously. But and then you can find both Charlie and I in the Annovation community, and feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn or
Yeah,
wherever else.
definitely reach out. Happy to continue the conversation there.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, Charlie.
Thanks so much for having me.